well over 7 feet tall, black hooded cape, glowing red eyes. Looked like wings folded in. You could see the points coming up past the shoulders. Almost like one of those Mothman type of entities. I had a Bible in my left hand. I had a holy mixture in my right hand, which was a mixture of holy water, holy oil, holy salt, frankincense. And I said, by the mighty power of Yahweh and his mighty and holy name, in Yahshua Jesus Christ's name, I bind and rebuke you and cast you out and command you to depart. And I really loud and authoritative. And when I did that, that entity let out a screech like I'd never heard before or since. And it rattled every window in that house before it departed, and it did depart.
You've been around a long time, you have a ton of experience, but for people who may have not heard of you, can you just give a brief rundown about how you came to be in your position, what path led you to be an exorcist?
It all began by me being victimized. My family was destroyed by demonic forces, and I nearly was as well. I was physically attacked by demonic forces between ages 5 and 12. I had a hellish childhood. Most of my family is gone. Neither of my parents lived to see the age of 50, and many other family members have departed as well. And it was a very difficult journey. I've written 12 books, and in the first book, which is called Dark Force, I said it all began when my family and I moved into a 3-bedroom ranch-style home located in Glen Burnie, Maryland, in a community called Herondale in 1970. But it actually goes much further back than that. I found out that through a reliable source that 2 family members had actually conjured these demonic forces well over 100 years ago. And they came on the family, on both sides of the family, and created a variety of destructions, and just really horrific. It was, if not for, and I don't say this in any way of exaggeration or telling a story, I'm telling you the truth. If not for the power of God and his love and mercy for me, it's saving me, we wouldn't be having this interview right now because I wouldn't be here. So God saved me. I've been down all the long and dark and hard roads in life. I'm telling you the truth. And I have seen just about and experienced just about every type of paranormal, supernatural thing that you can imagine. The only thing that I have not seen in my life or career is a person's head turn all the way around. I've seen everything else.
Was it your family members, descendants who had messed with some dark practices, or was it tied to the actual physical location of that home itself?
No, it was descendants of the family members, and they'd conjured up theirs with intent to conjure up demonic forces. And let me tell you, when you do something like that and you have real intent to do so, then you are inviting them in and they'll kick that door in. And once they're in, they are not leaving until someone like me, and it's not that I'm anyone or anything special, it's the power of God working through me, and by his power working through me, he's done extraordinary things in working through me for thousands of people all over America and in 60 other countries as well. Now, that is all the power of God, and I always give him praise and thanks for glory for all those things. And my mother, I found out, had many paranormal, supernatural experiences in her childhood as well. Her family moved around quite a bit in her childhood, and they actually lived in that area, that community, Herondale, in that Glen Burnie area for a period of time when she was a teenager. So she had exposure to the area. And it wasn't just my house that had all of this hellish activity taking place. It's the entire area.
Strange.
And this goes back to Native American curses that allegedly were put on the lands. And there's a big, gigantic stone called the Wishing Rock. And I'd say it was probably maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles at the most from where that house was that we grew up in, or I grew up in. And it was said that it was a place of supernatural, like a vortex or a gateway or a doorway, a dimensional doorway. That rock was placed there. The rock doesn't match with anything else there in the area. It looks like it was just placed there. And there are stories of Native Americans that used to gather at that and perform rituals and important events and things of that nature. So they held that rock in that area in high regard. And so that would be my best guess is that it is, in fact, some type of portal and dimensional doorway. And so many things have happened in that area over the years for such a small community. You wouldn't believe the violent crime and the murders and domestic abuse and other things that took place out of that area. And a prime example of that is that my dad, William Bede Sr., who was a very good man, who was so gifted and should have been extremely successful in life, he made horrific choices. And his worst mistake was coming under the influence of alcohol. And when he would do this, many people don't realize this, Scott, that there are spirits, and they're called Alcool, Algol. There are demonic spirits that are attached to alcohol. There are demonic spirits attached to drugs. Pharmakia, the spirits of Pharmakia, which means sorcery. And so when a person engages in this and their intent is to become intoxicated, they lose control and those spirits will take over. So my father, again, was a very good man who made terrible choices. My mother, Patricia Bean, was a homemaker. And they were married in, I believe, 1956. My sister was born in 57. There was another child born in 1963. He died under mysterious circumstances. And to this very day, it can never get to the bottom of what really happened. But he lived for a short time. And then representatives from Johns Hopkins Hospital came and retrieved the body for studies. What does that mean? I have no idea, but that is highly unusual that something like that would take place. And then I was born in 1966 and my brother was born in 69. But we moved into that. So there were supernatural events taking place before moving into the house. There was a photograph taken of me in 1968 at age 2. And I'm with my sister in the photo. We're seated behind a toy piano, Christmas time, 1968. And she's to my left, and to her far left is this, what appears to be at least 7 feet tall, black hooded entity. Now, that's in the photograph of 1968. And then there's another Polaroid photo taken of me in 1969 at age 3. And I was standing in front of bushes. And it should have been a photo of a little boy, at age 3, and what turned out in the photo was extraordinary. There were many other types of beings and entities that appeared in that photograph. It was as if the dimensional doorway was opened. Standing above me, well, first of all, there was humanoid entities that were standing behind me in single file, different heights, different sizes. Then standing behind them, towering above my head, was this very tall being that had the face of a lion. And then there was one of those little gray alien looking guys standing to my left. And to the left of that entity looked like this gigantic Bigfoot Sasquatch type of being. And then many other different types of beings in the photograph. Now, this is a Polaroid photograph taken of a 3-year-old child in 1969. And so that's where it started. Now, once we got into that house, I believe that the evil that was already on the family had led my parents to that house where evil was already present and manifest in that house and in the entire area. And that's why it was so severe for us. That's why it was a perfect storm. And it was certainly bent on destruction. And the mission was accomplished because my family was destroyed. But my mom was the first one to have an experience in the house. It took place not long after we moved in. She was inside of there unpacking and organizing. My dad had taken us with him for the day to my grandparents' house to allow her to not have us under her feet while she was trying to get the house in order. And it was during the course of that she felt a presence come into the room. She thought that it was my dad sneaking in, trying to play a joke on her, trying to scare her. So she spun around, fully anticipating on seeing him, and to her shock, nothing was there. So she was unnerved by it, obviously confused, and was able eventually to go back to doing what she was doing. And then one of the bedroom doors slammed shut by itself, and that was enough to make her go out and wait outside until we returned. So that's where it started. That's how it started. And then it gradually escalated into more experiences and noises and tapping and rapping, and then into violent physical attacks on us from those demonic entities.
For conjuring up these spirits, is that done to gain favor, to gain power, to gain, what is the purpose in your, not only what happened with in what you've investigated with your own family's past, but in present cases that you go to? Are these things done because people are seeking favor or seeking power? Is that primarily
Both.
the reason?
Both.
Okay.
And I've seen it, not only in my own family, but throughout my career now as a spiritual warrior. I've seen it many times. And I recall a case right off the top of my head from Salt Lake City, a couple that came to me for help that some people, and knowledge is power, and power perceived is power achieved. And that's a wonderful thing. But when you're trying to acquire knowledge in the dark arts, that's not power. That could lead to disaster. And so they were reading books like The Lesser Key of Solomon and things of that nature. Solomon was the, favored king. He was the wise king. He was the son of the most favored, David, King David. And so that carried on with Solomon. God had such favor on him. But Solomon had many wives. David did too, but Solomon had many wives and many concubines. And some of those women were worshiping the devil, and they led him away from God. And in doing so, Solomon became a sorcerer, and he summoned demons to come and do his bidding and building the temple and things of that nature. So he thought he had great power over these demonic forces to get them to do his bidding. And it ended up being disastrous for him. And it ends up being disastrous for anyone who participates in this. They at first, it's great. And they think they have this measure of power. They think that they have partnership with the devil, that they can, by their will, summon these demonic forces, and then they'll carry out their bidding. I've had some cases to where people summon demonic forces to kill others and to place curses on them and things of that nature. I've seen it all, believe me. And so it always becomes a disaster in the end, because the devil will make these people think that they've got some kind of partnership and kinship. And then when he's used them all up, he'll throw them away like yesterday's garbage, but not before trying to completely destroy them and to get them to destroy others as well.
Have you seen it actually carried out to where if someone tries to summon something to carry out a violent act against someone else, that actually succeeds, or are they not allowed to do that under the rules of God? Like how far have you seen it go?
I've seen it go that far where people were killed and people were no longer on the earth as a result of these types of things. So they're very real. They're to be taken seriously. But at the same time, if we have a deep and strong faith, then we have a covering over us. So read Deuteronomy 28. So if you are really in a real and authentic relationship with God, and you're truly making him first, and you're doing your best to be your best to serve him, and part of serving him is to serve your fellow man as well. And if you're doing that, you're going to be under the blessings of Deuteronomy 28. Therefore, you will be galvanized. God will keep a covering over you because of your faith and devotion to him. So therefore, anyone that tries to do anything against you, God will set his face against them and catch them up in their own nets. And so I've had many of those types of cases to where, and it ruined people's lives. It ended some people's lives. And then people that had those types of curses put on others would be, in some cases, well, in all cases, would find destruction come upon them in some way, but that would actually be attacked by the demonic forces that they summoned in the first place. So it all backfires. And so my best advice to anybody out there who would even consider such a thing, don't do it, because you might think that it's a great thing in the short term, but it's going to turn out to blow up in your face and destruction will come upon you. So I urge you, please don't even go near those types of things. Don't engage in those types of things. Just keep your faith. Make sure you're keeping God first. That doesn't mean you go around beating people over the head with the Bible and quoting scriptures. I know some drug addicts that can quote scripture better than any pastor. They know the Bible inside and out. So what does that mean? Nothing. So you can't, we have free will. So if we freely choose to make God first, then we will be blessed in all of our ways. But, if you are, and it's so sad, Scott, because we're living in a time now where people, and this is true the manipulation of frequency and vibration. So all life operates on frequency and vibration. Why is that? Because when Yahweh, the God of the universe, and probably other universes as well, when he created the world, spoke the world into existence, he did so through the frequency and vibration of his voice. Therefore, all life operates on that principle, frequency and vibration. The devil knows this. He held a very high position in heaven as the choir director, and he served very well and was very privy in his high position to some of the secrets of God. And then when the rebellion took place, he was cast out of heaven in what I believe to be flying craft. And with a third of the angels, the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God, they came down here. They took human women. They produced a hybrid offspring of giants called the Nephilim. They were wicked, and they not only became man-eaters, but they had unnatural union with apes, bears, wolves, dogs, monkeys, and other things. And that, in my opinion, those are the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Sabe beings, which are every bit as much flesh and blood and spiritual, or as spirit, flesh and blood as spiritual. So these beings are part angel and part fallen angel as well. And they do have supernatural powers. So it all links together. Two of my books, Stranger Than Fiction and Stranger Than Fiction 2, I write about all this and connect the dots with all this paranormal supernatural phenomena from Yahweh, God. His name was listed 6,823 times in the Bible, replaced with the title of Lords. Wherever you see Lord in caps, that should say Yahweh. He's the creator of all things. And so from him to the Melchizedek, a.k.a. Joshua, a.k.a. Jesus, to the angels, to the devil, to demons, to UFOs, to Bigfoot, what we think are ghosts and all these types of anything and everything, these rakes, the whole thing. And so I wrote those books about all that phenomena and linking it all together because it is very much interlinked. And I'll give you an example of this as well. There was a photograph taken of my mother in 1975 in that house. Now, my father left us, I believe it was in late 1975, so I'm not exactly sure what the date of that photograph was. It was before he left. And was taking a photo of my mother who was on the telephone, and behind her, it was like this bar. He had knocked out a coat closet, made it a bar. And there was a rectangular mirror behind her, very long and large rectangular mirror. And then to her left was an oval-shaped mirror. When that photograph was taken, there were two beings in the photograph with her. And you could see them just as clearly as you could see her in the photograph. One's face is in the mirror, and a gray alien-looking type of being, big black eyes. And then the other one is standing right beside her, just a little higher than her waist, and you see the flash of the camera coming off the top of its head. And so that's 1975. So the phenomena that was taking place there was demonic phenomena, but we also had angelic phenomena and a being that would come and save us, specifically my mother and I on several occasions. And then there were other non-human looking beings that look like these alien type of beings that you see, and UFOs as well. So we had a cavalcade of paranormal supernatural activity that was taking place in the house among the family for a very long time.
Let me stop you there because you said a lot of interesting things. Let me go back to when we were talking about setting someone to attack someone. Is that coming through as suicides? Is that coming through mysterious illnesses? Is that coming through as actual physical entities coming into someone's life and harming them? When you're saying that some of the cases, the extreme cases, end up in death, how are those manifesting in the spiritual sense and in the physical sense?
They can't outright kill the person, okay? They can't do that. But what they can do, and even in my own story with many deaths throughout my family, including my mother and my grandmother for sure, and others, they can assist. So if there's some type of medical condition taking place, you better believe they can amplify and magnify that into death. If in another case that comes to mind, the person summoned those demons and was part of a satanic group And they together also summoned those entities. And the target, which was a family member of his, within 2 weeks was dead. He died in a tragic auto accident. So these things do happen, and there have been cases where people would die of heart attacks or strokes or some type of medical thing that, again, was it a pre-existing condition? To my knowledge, in some of these cases, yes. But when these types of entities come in, again, they can amplify and magnify the situation. And they could do that through putting fear, stress, strain, and pressure on the person to the point, and I believe that's what happened in my mother's case and my grandmother as well. They can amp up all these things to the point to where the person is in such a high level of stress from all of it that they can, whatever symptoms they had and medical conditions, they can amplify and magnify to the point of death. I have seen this firsthand. I know that it's real, and it's unfortunate that these things do happen, but again, is of the utmost importance. If any of you out there listening or watching this, if you don't believe anything I've said, please take this to the bank and believe it, that it is of the utmost importance to have a real and authentic relationship with God. Therefore, you will be under his covering. You want to be under his covering. So if someone tries this on you, it will bounce off of you because you'll be galvanized against it, and it'll go back onto the sender. So please keep your faith strong. Don't live in fear. Let's trade the fear and the trauma for what I call warrior mode, which is faith, strength, and courage. You'll never have a perfect life on this earth, but I'll guarantee you one thing. If you listen to what I'm saying to you, and you develop a real and authentic relationship with God, you will have a very good and blessed life.
And then you mentioned all these different, like the phenomenon in general that people keep referencing, the UFOs, all these weird events. In terms of your faith, in terms of your maybe denomination that you follow in Christianity, are you breaking away a little bit in terms of branching out and kind of looking at this stuff, like trying to encapsulate it all? Because I've talked to several people, like I've talked to Catholic exorcists who view it strictly as demonic in the traditional fall story. And then I've talked to demonologists who kind of approach it from a multi-layered perspective, like this is something that we don't understand and it's appearing to us in different ways depending on what we're expecting. It is demonic in the sense of it's malicious against you, but like the horns and the hooves kind of idea is just it deciding what it's going to show to us. Like, where do you fall in this with your faith, the Bible? I mean, books. I mean, it's such a complicated topic. I'm really curious about...
You open the can up now.
Yeah, so I'm really curious about what you personally believe in all of this.
I don't follow any man, okay? Psalm 146:3. I put my trust in God only. It's not that I don't trust people, but I don't follow anybody. Nobody has an influence on me. And I'm thankful for that. I was born a leader, not a follower. So there are 45,000 different Christian denominations in the world, over 1,500 in America, and 20,000 other world religions. I'd say that's a huge problem because there's one God, one truth. And all these versions of are just that, versions of. If I say, let's talk about Psalm 91, and I say to you, oh, it means this, then you say, oh, no, I think it means that. Well, now, if I start a denomination, you start a denomination, and it's based on interpretation because I think it says this, you think it says that. No man can lead you in your real and authentic relationship with God. That's a one-on-one type of relationship. And if you truly develop that, then you'll have something that's called holy discernment. And God will let you know who's true, who's not, who's real, who's not, who to follow, who not. And it's very important because our world today, I'm sorry to say, is so dumbed down, especially in America. This is the most dumbed down batch of people that I've ever seen in my life. And I don't hate anybody, but I'm just telling you, This is through frequency and vibration and manipulation from TV, movies, music. It's all garbage, most of it. And it is all designed to lower the frequency and vibration of people. So therefore, people, their minds become gelatinous in a sense that they're just being led in every direction except for the right direction. And the devil loves every second of it. So there is great division And I'm non-denomination, by the way. I don't follow any of these things. And so there's great division in Christianity alone. I've personally heard other denominational pastors or priests damn others to hell because they don't believe like they believe. And then you got the carnival barkers on TV that are all charlatans, in my opinion. And they're out there telling you, you need to do this, that, you're going to hell. And meanwhile, they're doing everything under the sun. And it's okay for them, but not okay for you. And make sure that you get your money in there because you can buy your place in heaven. I heard one guy say, and he looked like he was under the influence of something. He said, if you get on that phone, get $1,000 in here right now, I'm going to have 4 angels at your door. I was waiting for the lightning bolt to come, and I really wish God would have sent the lightning bolt. I'm in complete disagreement with those who would say, oh, it's all evil. No, it's not. I'm telling you, I have recent footage. I'm going to have to send this to you, and maybe we'll do a follow-up show. I have recent footage from October 20th and October 21st. These flying vehicles come to me. I don't summon them. I don't seek them. But since really 1977 was the first sighting that we had, an actual sighting of a flying object. But I told you about the beings in the photograph in 1975. So they were there.
And you still have all these photographs and everything? You put them in your book, right?
I could send you, and if you want to see them, I'll send you probably 100 photos or more, and I could send you a lot of video also.
I'll take whatever you can give me because I'll pull it up. I'll flash it up here when I air the episode.
And then we'll come back for a follow-up.
That'd be good, yeah.
But I have had many divine experiences involving UFOs, okay? But I've had many experiences also to where I felt it was demonic and I felt that my life was in danger. I have been taken to other places on craft. I've been taken out of my home. I've had several encounters with men in black. They are real. And whether people want to believe this or not, that's entirely up to you, but I have no reason to lie. And so I'm telling you the God's honest truth. I've had every type of experience that you can think of through paranormal, supernatural, including UFOs and being taken other places and all that kind of stuff. I had an experience one time, and this was probably in the late 90s. I want to say somewhere around 1999. I was feeding the birds. I was out there one morning and I was feeding bread to the birds. Beautiful day. And all of a sudden, this chrome disc came out of the sky, came all the way down, and it had a hole in the center. And it came down and hovered couldn't have been anywhere than 10 feet off the ground, several feet above me, and really above right where the birds were that I was feeding. And then it went right back up. Unbelievable. I took that as a divine experience. I had another experience that I was this was so crazy that I could take a camera, and back in those days it was a big camcorder. I could take that and go out into my backyard and just point it to the sky, and then these objects would come. And on one day, it was probably March 99, I want to say. Beautiful day. It was windy. And I'm looking, I said, praise God for such a beautiful day. Now, when I said that, I didn't see anything. But when I played the tape back, right after I said, praise God for such a beautiful day, this cloud-like object came in from the west. You could see it bank. This looked like a cloud. There's 100 scriptures in the Bible that mention UFOs and mention them as clouds, pillars of a cloud, flying tabernacles, flying rolls, flying scrolls, etc., etc., etc. So it comes in and it sits right in front of where I'm standing, right in front of the camera. I don't see it. Camera sees it. And it sat there and paused for several seconds, and then it broke up into 5 white balls and then headed away to the north. I have all that footage. So I've had many of these types of experiences that were divine experience. But again, I've had many other experiences, and that includes encounters with men in black that were sinister, that were evil, and where I felt like my life was in danger.
So do you believe all this still comes from the God, devil source, or do you think there's something else at play?
So if Yahweh is the creator of the universe and everything in it, then he created the devil too. That makes him a son of God also. People can't seem to grasp this. So if Joshua, aka Jesus, that name's 523 years old, if he's the son of God, then the devil's the son of God as well, as we were all sons of God, because he created everybody, so including the devil. The devil served as choir director in heaven. He was a beautiful being, had jewels on him and pipes inside of him. He was a musical being and he was a beautiful being. And he was very high in favor and regard to God, that's for sure, Yahweh. And so when he was cast out with a third of the angels and came down here to the earth. Now, Psalm 68:17 says the chariots of God are 20,000. Those are flying Merkabah divine chariots. Now, why does Yahweh need or want these flying chariots? I have no idea, but I do believe he's the creator of them. And I do believe that perhaps angels and heavenly hosts do traverse the heavens, which means skies, in them. And I also believe that demonic forces that came down here and corrupted the world, they traverse the skies in them as well. And I do believe that if our God has created this universe, wouldn't it be small-minded of us to think that he hasn't created, infinite amounts of other universes with other people, and perhaps those people have the ability and capability to travel here from time to time to observe. And then lastly, our governments, which I believe have made deals with demonic forces that operate some of these flying chariots. They have that technological ability and capability now to have their own flying Vamana demonic craft that traverse these skies as well. So there are 4 factors in this. I'm convinced of it.
Now, I talked to a parapsychologist who is coming at it from an agnostic point of view or a non-denominational point of view. He believed in ghosts, believed in the paranormal, had evidence of it, and is trying to approach it. The type of scientists are trying to approach it from that lens.
Sure.
And a lot of them maybe have negative experiences of religion. They're not religious now. He said that he has never seen, or parapsychologists have never seen, a case of truly demonic nature. And obviously that goes completely against exorcists and what they see.
Yeah.
And I asked him about what about stories where people's, they're turned into reptiles and they have a litany of, I had one, Richard Gallagher, I believe it is, who does psychiatric evaluations before they perform exorcism, said a woman levitated before. So there's a lot of stories like that.
I've seen levitation. I've seen levitation. I've heard people, deep guttural voices coming out of people that didn't have that type of voice.
Okay, yeah. So I was going to say, so for you, what makes you sure that there's demonic entities that exist, and what have you seen, I guess, that would go against that?
Well, from personal experience, number one, growing up in a hell house, that I was physically assaulted by demonic entities. But that's the exclamation point right there. I mean, that nobody'd ever convinced me. I mean, if somebody told me that didn't happen, I'd probably smack them. I'm sorry to say that, but I mean, I went through that. I suffered that level of trauma, so there's nobody that could tell me that I didn't suffer that. Mm-hmm. And so having seen that firsthand and lived that, and I believe that's why God chose me to be this spiritual warrior, is that, from the sufferings, I could not be where I'm at in helping others had I not been there to suffer. And look, I don't fault anybody for trying to rationally explain anything and everything. That's a healthy perspective to try, because you want truth, so you're seeking truth, so therefore you try to rationalize everything that you can present what you believe to be the truth. But that gets a little convoluted and diluted as well, to where now you're serving an agenda. So your agenda has become to prove that, none of this is real and it is this. And so now that you're serving your agenda, it'd be the same thing for the person that goes around, one of these ghost hunters or whatever, and their agenda is to prove that it's real. So I don't have any agendas. My agenda is the truth. So I say to my watchers and listeners every week on my broadcast, and I pray this every week, I pray that God will work through me to speak truth and to present the truth, because the truth is the truth. So any substitute for the truth is a lie. And that's what the devil does. He sprinkles little truths and with a lot of lies. And then that's how people get misled. So I am a truth seeker at heart. I'm not a paranormal enthusiast at all. And I watch their shows. I've been on, I can't tell you how many shows I've been on, TV shows and all that. And I don't even watch them. I'm thankful that I've been on some of them because there have been people that were ready to end their life that happened to be flipping through the channels and saw me on one of these TV shows, and then they reached out for help, and God worked through me to help them and to save them and to help them to have a quality of life. I'm very thankful for that. Now, is everybody possessed? No. There are people that do have mental illness, but even in the aspects of mental illness, a demonic infiltration could take place because the person's frequency and vibration is lowered. So if a person's in a deep state of depression, or they've had this high level of trauma, and that's normally where it starts, is that people have these high level traumas. It usually starts in childhood around between ages 3 and 5. And whether that is some horrific act that had taken place from a human perpetrator that obviously was demon-filled to carry out such wicked and heinous acts, or if it was some type of supernatural encounter and visitation that created a high level of trauma. Trauma's trauma. So that is the devil's objective, is to target an individual, usually in childhood, and create that high level of trauma. And when that takes place, the demonic entities that are present and manifest, and whether that is on a human perpetrator that is carrying out wicked and heinous acts, or just coming through a portal to attack the child, when that high level of trauma is established, then these demonic entities will attach to that child and or person, and they will not leave until they're evicted. And this is where me and people like me come in, by the power of God working through me, to evict them. There is no other way. And then it's not just bursting in the door and, oh, here he is, and he's going to cast out all the demons. I'm every bit as much a counselor as I am a spiritual warrior. And I have to sit down with the victim or family. I mean, there's been families that have been under siege many times. And we have to sit down and we have to talk. And that requires truth and transparency, painful. And there have been some cases to where it took up to 5 or more hours of these people or families telling me everything, peeling away the onion layer by layer until we get to the root cause. And then when that takes place, we've broken every link of every chain that the devil has held over this person or family. And then I can engage them in spiritual warfare by the power of God working through me to bind and rebuke and cast them out and off and away from the person and or family, the affected people. And then we have to sit down after that. I have to go through the entire home. I've been brought into businesses and even churches as well, Scott. I've been brought into many churches around America that the pastor was under demonic attack and or curses, hexes, vexes, and spells, and his family was under attack, and the congregation was under attack. They were seeing demonic entities in the church. Some of these people were ready to take their lives. Some of the pastors and priests were ready to take their lives over this. So I've seen it all, and I've been brought into all these types of situations. So after the spiritual deliverance takes place, some people would call that exorcism or whatever. I mean, it's all the same. The only difference between spiritual deliverance and exorcism is a Catholic rite. It's a ritual. Mm-hmm. And so after that takes place, I have to go through the entire premises and make sure that there are no demons hiding or lurking and left behind in there. And I have had those encounters, face-to-face encounters with some demonic entities that were left behind and were present and manifest. And so then I have to bind and rebuke and cast them out. I give you one quick example here. It was in 2014, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The lady was completely possessed. God worked through me to delivered her from all the evil. And then I'm going through the house. This is a very large house. And went through the entire house from the bottom up and got to the 3rd level, which was a large attic space that they had converted into a master bedroom. So I get to this wide set of steps. I go up the steps. There is a lamp on, small lamp to my right. So there's light over there. The other side is dark. The only light coming in on the other side is from a double window that didn't have any curtains or draperies, and the moonlight was coming through, and it was shining through, and there was a ventilation shaft there. I'd say probably 7-10 feet away from that window. And so I go over to the lighted side of the room first, binding, rebuking, casting out any demonic entities that may be hiding or lurking there, and then blessing the room and everything in the room. Then I go to the other side, the darker side. I get over there, and I would say probably 6 to 10 feet in front of me, in between that window where the light's coming in and that ventilation shaft, stood what looked to be almost like one of those Mothman type of entities that well over 7 feet tall, black hooded cape thing, glowing red eyes, and it had looked like wings folded in. You could see the points coming up past the shoulders. Now, I want you to think about what I'm saying to you. Now, how can any human withstand this? Now, I can only withstand this by the power of God working through me. So I had a Bible in my left hand. I had a holy mixture in my right hand, which was a mixture of holy water, holy oil, holy salt, frankincense. And so I stood firm. Now, most people, some would pass out, some would soil themselves, some would scream, some would turn and run. And I said, by the mighty power of Yahweh, in his mighty and holy name, in Yahshua Jesus the Christ's name, I bind and rebuke you and cast you out and command you to depart. And I really loud and authoritative. And I shook that thing. And when I did that, that entity let out a screech like I'd never heard before or since. And it rattled every window in that house before it departed, and it did depart.
Jeez.
Now think about that for a second. So I've encountered it all. I've seen it all. And so after something like that, I still had to go back down, once everything was completed, and that was the final phase of the completion of the clearing and blessing of the home and the land. Now I got to go down and sit with that family or that, affected person that was victimized. And we have to sit down and put a game plan for their life moving forward, and certain things to do and certain things not to do, and certain doorways to keep closed, because if you open those doorways back up, 7 more wicked than the original will come back.
Would you say that's the most frightening, at least to the outside people would describe it, story or experience that you've had? Or has there been anything else to where?
Oh, there's been plenty, but that would be at the top of the list of something that if a person were there, if you were there with me, if you didn't run, you would be putting your fingers on your eyes, you're rubbing your eyes going, am I really seeing this? Is this really happening?
And you said you've seen levitation too for people who've been possessed.
I have.
And because people automatically will just say someone's lying, they're wrong, whatever the excuse is, because I've also heard this from other exorcists.
There's no mistaking it.
So yeah, can you just tell me one experience where this occurred and like how it went down?
Yeah, female, and she levitated about 6 inches off the bed. I mean, there's clear space underneath of her from where she was in the bed. So there's no faking that. You can't. I don't know of any person that can make themselves float, but I've seen it, and it is real. And I've also, with the voices coming out of people that they certainly don't sound like human voices, and they're very guttural, and they're very evil and menacing. And yeah, I've heard it all. I've experienced all that.
Would you describe yourself as, no, I don't want to say medium, but like the people who have psychic abilities or who can sense things or can see things? And because I've talked to a Catholic exorcist and I didn't even know it, but they have people on their teams who have those abilities. And I thought that it was always from like the devil in terms of like traditional teaching. But like, no, you can have a gift from God. You have to do discernment and find out where it's coming from. And they went through that whole process. But would you describe yourself as that way? And is that something that early on you discovered as a child, that you could see these things because you've had so many experiences?
I would never say that I'm a psychic medium, but what I would say...
throw away that term, but like...
Yeah, what I would say is that I have a knowing of things, and that is through holy discernment. So when we develop a real authentic relationship with God, he'll show us things. I've gone to homes, and he's already shown me in my mind where the demons are, where the portals are. I've gone right in, and the people would go, how do you know that? We had, psychics in here and ghost hunters, and And the psychics told us it was a portal right where you've gone to and all this. But God had already shown that to me. He'd already given me a knowing of that. I never asked that of the family members or the victim or whatever it is. I just had that automatic knowing of things. And I can't tell you how many times that has happened. And that is prophetic gifts. And that is holy discernment. And that can only come, certainly for me, by having a real and authentic relationship with God.
And that scare you in the beginning? Were you like, oh my God, am I going crazy when you started having these experiences as a young man? Or did you just, because you had the experience as a child, that it just was kind of rolled into normal?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't even want to accept this calling in the beginning. It was quite a while before I did accept the calling because I had such a low opinion of myself. And then I began to do studies. So I had to leave school in the 8th grade because of those deaths that took place. My mother and grandmother lied about my age, went to work for a construction company. I worked with some hardcore tough guys.
Mm-hmm.
That made me a hardcore tough guy. And so I come from a background like that. And I spent nearly 25 years in the bar business. I was a bar bouncer, manager of securities. I'm a highly trained and skilled individual in the art of physical combat. Okay. So I come from that type of background. So, and I think that I was led into that area because I cannot stand to see people victimized. So I always felt like this guardian, avenging angel that would help people in their time of need. And even back then, people were coming to me with their problems and all that kind of stuff. And also, if someone came in the door, I had an automatic knowing that that person was going to be a problem. And sure enough, in most cases, that person was a problem. So I have been in many life-threatening situations throughout my lifetime in that business as a bodyguard and even as a spiritual warrior. God has saved me every single time. I thank him and praise him for it. I don't take it for granted. I certainly don't brag about it. I'm thankful that he has had those angels there to be able to save me in every situation and instance. And this knowing of things has been with me for quite a while, but it really increased when I was sincere in having a real and authentic relationship with God. So it just amplified and magnified from there. But then I started to engage in studies, and I spent probably 4 years in serious scholarly like biblical studies. And the one I give credit for that is Professor Bart Ehrman, who's no longer a man of faith. But Ehrman, I'd heard about him. He was the foremost biblical scholar on the New Testament, probably still is in America. I reached out to him when I heard his story, and I was going to try and bring him back to God. But what he did for me was he caused me to study. He said, you want to learn the truth about the Bible and biblical studies and all that, put 4 Bibles together and study that way. And I did, and my eyes were open. I could tell you this with 100% certainty. God is everything to me. Yahweh is first in my life, and he will always be first. And I'm immensely blessed as a result of that. But do I believe that the Bible is the infallible word of God? No, I do not. Men have manipulated that from the beginning. I can prove it. Ehrman proved it, and other scholars can prove it. And it's not until you take that deep dive and you go in there and you start to study these things, you go, ooh, wait a minute. This doesn't go with that. This doesn't flow with that. There's a lot of stuff. And again, so not only did I engage in those types of scholarly biblical studies, I engaged in historical studies as well. And when you do that, whew, man, you go, these things that I've been taught and many things that I've been taught in my life, they're lies. This is not the truth. So there's a lot more to the story. And so whether people agree with me on that or not, that's entirely up to them. We all have free will. But I would say this, pray and ask God if what I'm saying is true or not, and then develop a real and authentic relationship with him. And not only will you be blessed in all of your ways, you will have knowledge and wisdom and discernment to know the truth.
It's in terms of the experiences you've had in terms of entities, how do you know what's good and what's bad? And I know that because when you talk about these things that, are outside of space and time, at least the traditional or how we think of stuff, and they can, to use a term grooming kind of over a long period of time for us, but maybe it's not a big deal to them. So how do you know if it's nice in the beginning? Is it going to be malicious at the end? Like, how are you differentiating between a good and a bad?
Here's the way to discern this. If an angelic being comes to you, and I've had many experiences with angels, and angels in full form, angels hugging me, angels showing me that they're there. I've had these experiences. And so when you have that type of experience, you feel love, you feel comfort, you feel like you're being protected. So it is a high frequency, high vibration encounter that leaves you feeling good. I've had the other experiences, as I said to you, I've had many demonic attacks throughout my childhood and throughout my lifetime. It didn't just end in childhood. It wasn't until God delivered me from all of it. I don't have that stuff anymore in my life, and I thank him and praise him for it. I would never be a victim to anyone or anything ever again. And I can assure you that by the power of God working through me. But on the other end of the spectrum, when people are having those demonic encounters, you're going to have fear. You're going to like be off balance. You could have a ringing in your ears or pressure in your head or sinuses. You could feel nauseous, and you could have all those things at once. Feel like your life is in danger. You could feel that you're about to be attacked, and you're certainly under mental and spiritual attack at that point, which could lead into a physical attack as well. So it's a completely different thing. And even for a demonic familiar spirit is an imposter. For instance, I've had many encounters through a dream state with dearly departed family members. This has been going on for the last 5 years, and they're wonderful and blessed encounters. Now, some people in the radical Christian denominations would say, hey, he's having these experiences with demons and all this. It's a lie. God somehow allows us to have these visitations with our loved ones. How does he do it? I have no idea. You'd have to ask him. But it is real. But where they are partially right is that demonic familiar spirits can impersonate our long-lost loved one or whatever it is, whoever's passed. But there's always a giveaway to that. They can't impersonate them to perfection. There's always a glitch. There's always something that would alert the person that, hey, this is not my mother. This is not my father. This is not Uncle Joe or whatever. This is a demonic imposter. So this is where discernment comes in. And if you have that level of discernment by having real and authentic relationship with God, then you will know. You'll absolutely know, because there's always a glitch. There's always an indicator. There's always a giveaway of the demonic imposter, because they cannot perfectly impersonate your long-lost loved one.
And you can just give me a teaser on this, because I know this is a huge topic, but you just dropped that line earlier that you believe the government is in bed with the devil, basically. And just to tease us a little bit here, to what end? Is it to turn people toward that side? Is it is it a large swath of the government? Like, just give me a little
all right,
taste of what you believe.
Well,
and then we can another time can get into the details and everything else.
And we'll have a lot more to get into, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that every government employee is wicked and evil and sold out to the devil. I'm not saying that. I've had family members that served in the military and in government agencies. They had no evil intent. They're not serving the devil. And there are many people out there like that. They're good and decent, honest, hardworking people that have a task. Now, we'll say this, in those agencies, people are not privy to know what's going on. You are given a task, and you're not given anything else. So whatever that is, you will do that. Don't question anything. Just do the task that you're given, and that's the end of it. And yet, in the upper echelon, higher levels, and this goes for everything, Scott, in my opinion, the devil has the market cornered. And whether that is religion, whether that is politics, government, professional sports, the entertainment industry, Hollywood, all these things, the devil has the market cornered. Now, if I'm a liar in what I'm saying, then any reasonable person that would do any study into these things, and if they could come out of that and say, oh, no, he's wrong, it's all good, well, then they're a liar, or they're deceived, and they're going in for their agenda, their narrative. They're sold out here. And so what I believe, without really knowing the truth, because I wasn't there to see what took place, but I believe that the devil has these entities that he sent from his demonic kingdom to come onto the earth and partner with some of the governments on the earth. And I believe America to be one of those governments, among many others. And there's an exchange. Technology, that's power. And the exchange takes place for perhaps allowing these beings to abduct and to study and to put certain people into these types of monitoring programs throughout their lifetime. So how have we made this gigantic technological leap in the last 100 years? How is this possible? Somebody's intervened somewhere to give these governments this technological capability to be where we are today. You have the President of the United States say that we have otherworldly capabilities, that we can manipulate space and time. When somebody's saying that, you've acquired something that, in my opinion, couldn't be done on our own. And so this is why I believe that America is in such a terrible state, because the frequency and vibration always has to be on low for these demonic entities. So you have to continuously create chaotic events to keep people off balance, to keep them in a fear-based, trauma-based way of thinking and living, whether it's economically, spiritually. And this is why you have the entertainment industry putting out such filth and garbage to poison these people in their minds and spirits. And so therefore they live it. They live the role. There was a song that Ozzy Osbourne came out with in 1980. It was called Crazy Train. It wasn't written by him. It was written by his bass player, Bob Daisley. But one of the most profound musical lines I've ever heard in any of this kind of stuff is that he sings, "The media sells it and you live the role." It's absolutely 100% the truth. That's what's taking place now. There are many other countries on the earth that don't live like this, and they have a higher standard of living and a better moral compass. But make no mistake about it, America is the straw that stirs the drink of the world. And if you could corrupt America and lower the frequency and vibration in people, that's going to have an effect on the entire world. I love everybody, but I'm not a fan of these people that, they're steeped in deception, and they're serving their own agendas to control people. And that's where I have to speak up and say, wait a minute, I'm not on board with that. And it's not that I have hate against anybody. It's just that I want to stand for the truth always.
Well, I think it's interesting with you is like you're offering to provide photos, videos, and evidence of the stuff you're talking about. And a lot of people, make claims. And I'm not saying everybody who doesn't have photos and evidence is wrong, because, a lot of these things are scary to people. They don't think to take out their phones, all that kind of stuff is true. But it's interesting to talk to someone like you who's had the experiences and is willing to put stuff out there to talk about it. So that's cool.
Right. I would never say it unless it was true. And I would never claim to say, oh, I have this, I have that, unless I have it to back it up. And I do have it to back it up. So be prepared, my brother.
I will
get several emails with lots of photographs and videos.
Okay. Yeah. And I want to next time definitely talk to you about, I would love to talk about just kind of the Bible and where you go for like true information, what you think has been corrupted, because that's like a really...
I go to the source, and that is God. And I don't... So Psalm 146:3 says, put no trust in men or princes or even a son of man, because there's only one to put your trust in. And I live by that. I really do. And so I'm sorry to say to you, I believe that a good deal of the Bible is corrupt. Is the core message true? Yes, but there's a lot of corruption, especially in the New Testament, because Constantine the Greek, which is known as Constantine the Great, he started this religion. It was based on the writings of what I believe the false apostle Paul, who really started all this. And this is a long and deep rabbit hole. And believe me, people have hated me for talking about this.
Yeah, it's a contentious issue for sure. But I'd be interested to know like where you go for the truest form of what you're talking about, because people can get very lost in what to believe and who to believe and what should they read and what should they not read.
Well, it's all designed to lead people away from God. And now, I'm sure you're familiar with this, the Mandela effect, which is very real. There are hundreds of scriptures in the Bible that have been changed now, and they're altered. And I can prove that too. I've got a website that is linked to the other sites that talks about these scripture changes and what they mean. So I was first alerted by that from a person that I helped in Scotland with a spiritual deliverance. And she had sent me a message saying, "Are you aware of the Mandela effect?" I said, "I heard of it. I don't have time for that." And she sent a video, and I said, I was going to just delete it. And God stopped me in my tracks and said, "Watch this." And I did watch it. And I nearly fell out of my chair, Scott. See this right here? You see that figurine? That is Isaiah 11:6. And the lion shall lay down with the lamb, right? That scripture's everywhere. There's statues, little figurines like this, paintings. Do you have access? Can you go on your phone or whatever right now to Isaiah 11:6?
Let me Google it because my phone's the camera.
Be prepared for shock.
You said Isaiah 11:6?
Yeah. And the lion shall lay down with the lamb. Watch what it says now.
The wolf?
That's right. So we have all these scriptures that are altered now. It is making a mock of God. It's absolutely satanic in nature. I think it's done through CERN and D-Wave quantum computers. They have the technology available, just like Donald Trump says that we have these otherworldly capabilities to manipulate space and time. They've done it with these Bibles. And I'm talking about Bibles in my possession, your possession. I have a 200-year-old Bible up there in the top of my closet. They've all been altered. So that's supernatural. So if something could come in and supernaturally alter writing in your Bible or books or whatever it may be, that's supernatural. So our whole world is being manipulated right now. It's like a matrix. And those outside of this matrix have this ability and capability. And I do believe it is through the CERN device and D-Wave quantum computers and things of that nature that they can literally manipulate space and time and change these scriptures also.
Jeez.
It might sound like a crazy man talking, but I assure you it is not.
Well, as I've gotten older, it's funny, I entertain much more what would be called the conspiracy theories because you realize there is a lot of lying going on and a lot of control mechanisms. Just if you take out all the supernatural stuff, just to keep society running, there's a power structure that needs to be in place to try to keep everybody in line, to be the cogs in the machine, to keep everything flowing. And once you accept that, where it just cascades to everything else. So I'm much more willing to listen to people and experiences and try to think about it honestly and not come in with a bias of what I had before. And that's
truth is stranger than fiction. That's why I wrote those books.
So that's my whole journey now is like, I was born, raised Catholic. I still practice Catholic. I go to church, but there is a whole other element. I'm looking at idealism, talking to philosophers, and not to destroy my religion, but just to think what else is out there and trying to accept just all of it. It's just like trying to...
I'll tell you this right now. There's not one of them that are authentic. Not a one of them. And that goes for the other 20,000 world religions as well. It is all based on man's interpretation. And so based on interpretation, then they create a religion I could tell you a lot about, I'm not going to go into that now, but I could tell you a lot about the Christian religion and how that was created and why that was created and who created. But that's all deep rabbit hole, and you would be shocked if I told you these things. But anyway.
Well, what would you say? I'm really curious. What would you say, though, about people who may say, oh, it's just translation stuff, or you're in the realm of subjectivity and you're interpreting stuff however you want to interpret it, and it's your own religion.
That's what they're doing. Yeah. They're taking things and putting into their... So like I mentioned about Constantine, he's part of the Flavian dynasty. People revere Constantine. He's the man that created Catholicism and all Christianity. Well, Constantine fed his wife and son to the lions, and Constantine wasn't such a good guy, okay? Same thing with this so-called Apostle Paul. That wasn't even his name. Saul wasn't his name either. But you could never convince anybody of that because somebody taught them something, and that's it. They believe it. Well, it requires to step outside of that. If you want truth, you got to step outside of that, to pray first and then do deep studies and ask God to guide you to the truth. This whole thing's been a manipulation. All through Christianity, all these different denominations, there's not a one of them that are authentic. And the same thing with the world religions. It is all based on interpretation. And a lot of it is and same thing with Judaism as well. These are all interpretations. Did some of these things really happen? Yes, but not all of it. And a lot of it is based on the B'nai Elohim, sons of God that came down. And the divine Merkabah chariots of Yahweh that also come down. Who do you think led the Israelites in the wilderness? It was a flying vehicle above them that gave them shade by day and light by night and fed them manna, bread from the craft, okay? People don't get this. They don't understand it. What do you think happened in the beginning of creation? If that was described in the Bible as true, that was Yahweh inside of a flying craft that was hovering over the waters that spoke the world into existence. People just can't grasp it.
Yeah.
It's so deep and it's so profound that it would really cause some people probably to have a breakdown.
Well, that's the argument, right? They won't tell you the truth ever because society will melt down.
And they want you to be under control. This is how these cult leaders manifest, is that, people invest in them and they think that they're getting truth from these people. And then all of a sudden, these people are doing some really bad things against those people, like Jim Jones, David Koresh. I could name a bunch of them, including this new one, this David Taylor, that did this to these people. It's a brainwash that takes place from being emotionally invested. And then you can be led in any direction, anywhere, by anybody. It's that easy, Scott. I'm sorry to say. And people are so dumbed down now that they will go for anything except for the truth.
You've never gotten a knock on the door by the government?
I have had many experiences with the government. Black vans, black vehicles, phones tapped, copters. I don't know if you heard it, but to this day, I still have this copter surveillance for some reason. When we started the interview, there was a copter right outside of my window. When you go back to listen, you'll hear it.
Really?
This happens all the time, but I am not given over to a spirit of fear. If a copter landed here right now, I go out and engage them because I'm not given over to a spirit of fear. I thank God for blessing me and protecting me, and I ain't afraid of anybody. So whatever they do, I put my faith and trust in God that he'll keep me safe from all harm.
Man,
you wouldn't believe it. If I told you everything, you wouldn't believe me, number one. But I have no reason to lie to you. And I've had these experiences and have had them for most of my life. And that's okay. And even the bad experiences, that's okay, because it has blessed me with wisdom and knowledge, which you can't put a price tag on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps me in helping others. If I go to somebody that has had high levels of trauma and I sit down with them, I guarantee you one thing: you could send the top psychiatrist and psychologist in the nation to go sit down with them. And if they haven't had the experience, then there's no way to come together and form a bond, because there's no trust that can develop.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why God selected me to do this kind of work. An automatic trust and bond, because the people know that I've been there.
Man, it's a lot to take in. I would love to have you back on in the future. You made a lot of bold claims that I think I would love to dive into and dissect and get your further opinion on them. So anytime you're able to come back on, we can maybe do another hour or something like that. I'd be happy to have you on.
That would be great. Yeah, maybe next month we could, later in the month or mid-December, we can, maybe even the first week of December. I'll check my calendar, and I would love to come back. What I'm going to do before I go to bed this morning, I will send you over, be prepared for a plethora of photographs and video footage as well, of these UFOs, and then of beings what I believe to be angels and some demons as well. So you're going to get a cavalcade of photographs from me.
I'm ready.
And in most cases, those photos have been taken of me, or I have taken the photograph. So be prepared. And I want to thank you for having me on. I've enjoyed being on with you. We certainly said a lot this hour. And I want to thank your listeners and your viewers as well. And I do look forward to coming back on with you for a part 2.
Yeah, and please let everybody know how they can find you, your websites, or anything else they can check out with your content.
If you're out there and you feel like you're under spiritual attack, then you could contact me, billbean.org. billbean.org or billjbean.com. If you put my name into Google, you'll get either one of those sites. And contact me directly from the sites. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. And I'll do everything that I can by the power of God working through me to help you. Same thing, if you want to get copies of my books, you could go onto the sites, billjbean.com or billbean.org, and you can order through Amazon copies of my books.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it very much.
All right, my brother, God bless you and your family, and look forward to coming back, and God bless everybody out there.
And don't forget, if you like what we're doing here on the podcast, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe.